What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 150, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin Dunn. Today's episode, I'm not going to lie to you, we're just basically talking about Starfield. So if that's not your thing, thank you for coming. Drop the like, but Starfield, full hype train ahead. Before we get to that, though, got to introduce my co-host each and every week, JamPackSam. How you doing, buddy?
What's up, man? I'm doing great. I'm happy to be back. I'm well rested. I am hyped because I've been playing some great games, but it's good to be back on the show. We've got a lot to talk about this week.
Yeah, you were gone last week. You had a nice vacation, I hope.
I did, yeah. I shockingly, normally when I go to the beach, it's normally beach time. I also do a lot of running while I'm at the beach, but this time around, I took the Xbox Series S and I kind of like baked it into my morning routine to play a little bit. And it was really nice. I got to catch up on some games and just in general have a good time with it.
Yeah, awesome, man. I'm glad you had a good time. I did see you playing, and for a minute, I was like, "Is he? I thought he was on vacation. How's he? How's he playing Diablo? How's he doing all these things?"
Power of
But
the Xbox Series S. You throw it in a bag and rock.
well, I hear the Series S is useless. But anyway, if you're new here, this is an Xbox podcast. We're live every Thursday right here on YouTube. If you can't catch us live, we post every Friday morning on your favorite audio platform of choice. While you're over there, make sure to drop us that 5-star review, whether it's Apple, Spotify. It does help us in the algorithm. And I have something new to plug in housekeeping. If you missed the announcement, we are once again joining the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team in Rome, New York, the first weekend in November to raise money for children hospitals, and we could not be more excited. It's going to be me, Taylor, a few other members of Save the Game Media going over to Rome, New York, playing for 24, 25 hours straight, live streaming right here on the channel. But our Extra Life link is now live. It's in the description down below. If you can donate, that would be so greatly appreciated. It goes all to help the children's hospitals. It'll also enter you to win some prizes that we will be giving away. We haven't announced the prizes yet. We're still coming up with those. But if you want to be entered, just donate any amount you want. We will get you. We appreciate every single thing that you can give us. But if you want to support us further and not do the Extra Life thing, which I don't know why you would. I'd rather you go do Extra Life than Patreon right now, but I'm just saying, do Extra Life, do Patreon, best of both worlds. You can support us further, get early access to Save the Game Media content. Head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. Thank you to Bucky Blue, Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Brianna's wife, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, The Snack Network, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, and our newest patron at the $10 We Love You tier, Lee Navarro of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team. Thank you so much. We appreciate each and every one of you. Sam, we're blowing right through the housekeeping because we got a lot to talk about. First, I want to know, what have you been playing on your vacation?
Dude, so obviously Starfield came out swinging.
We're going to talk about that, though, you know?
Yeah, we'll talk about it more in a minute. But before Starfield dropped, I got back into Diablo 4. And I know we talked about it on the last show that I was on and kind of how there was some anger around season one. People were frustrated with the changes, the balance of the character classes and things like that. And I went in, I rolled a season one character. I am a shock sorcerer. And so that's kind of the route that I was taking with that. And I got to say, as somebody who doesn't care about the balance, as somebody who's not super into like the nitty gritty of the damage changes that are done in the week to week or the month to month, I'm having a great time with it. And so it seems like going into the fall, it's going to be a Diablo 4, back to Starfield to do some side quests and some random missions, back to the Halo weeklies, and then just kind of cycle from there. So yeah, played a lot of Diablo 4 alongside some Starfield, courtesy of Clint over in the XEP Discord, who rolled a little giveaway, and I got the premium edition early access thanks to Clint in the XEP group. So I was able to dive in during my vacation on the Xbox Series S before moving over to the X. So thanks to Clint.
Yes, there were a few codes given away in a few Discords, including the XVP one that I was a part of. And I swear to God, I was 5 minutes late to every one of them. I was
Tough,
like,
man.
But it's okay. My brother went out, bought the premium edition the early access for his account, but we game share and it worked. So we've been playing I started playing Sunday night. So we're going to dive deep into Starfield, like I said, this episode. But before we get to that, Sam, I want to talk to you about Sea of Stars.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you've checked this one out, but I rolled credits on it. Our full review is up on the channel now. Me and Kyle, my brother, who have both beat the game, we did a 30-minute discussion about the pros, the cons, what we liked, what we didn't like. And safe to say, I love this game. This game
Nice.
was phenomenal. At the time, I said it was my current game of the year, and it's still fighting for that spot because I think it's so good. If you want my full thoughts, go check out that review. But I did want to just quickly talk about Sea of Stars because Sabotage announced that they've sold over 250,000 copies within the first week, which was actually their projected total for the entire year. That's crazy, especially when you consider this game's on Game Pass and PS Plus.
Yeah, that's wild. I think that, it's hard to gauge if it's something that's a reflection of just how available it is and it's driving a ton of conversation on social that's then translating over into sales. But I think the real takeaway is that it's a good game.
Hmm.
Like it's a good, complete, well polished game that has a lot of nostalgia baked into it, but also is really fun. My fiance has been playing it a little bit, but I haven't had the chance to dive in yet. But I've heard only great things. So it's awesome to see it panning out and more people can play the game through Game Pass, through PlayStation Plus, whatever you've got. It's great to be able to see.
Yeah, super happy for Sabotage. I just wanted to get that out there, give them their flowers because the game is special. There are a few people I've seen who aren't really thrilled with it. They don't think the story's very good. They don't think it holds up to the Chrono Trigger homage that they were going for. I disagree, but everyone's entitled to their opinion, as again we'll talk about later. Um, let's keep rolling through this quick news though, because I want to get to the meat and potatoes, Sam. All right, so we just have one quick little news item to talk about, and that's that Game Pass update. So available right now, Starfield for cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. September 14th brings you Solar Ash for cloud, console, and PC, and September 19th we get Liza P for cloud, console, and PC. I'm gonna say quality over quantity this month.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm excited about Solar Ash in kind of like a I'll get to it kind of way because I think what my approach is going to be is that I'm not a big Mortal Kombat guy as far as like diving in playing it for myself because I'm just bad at fighting games. So I think that's going to be the period of time I go back and I check out Sea of Stars, I check out Solar Ash so that I can give it the attention that it deserves. And Liza P has definitely caught my attention. So yeah, solid lineup and of course Starfield. I mean, it's like
Hmm.
this is the ecosystem functioning as intended. Like it's a huge game that you get with your subscription that is the landmark Xbox moment. So it's happening.
It's what we've all been waiting for. Yeah, obviously we're going to talk about Starfield momentarily. I think Solar Ash was a surprise drop. Did not expect that. We were told it was coming to Xbox, and then it kind of went quiet. So it's good to see it finally coming out. I don't think this is the best time for it to drop. I swear to God, publishers, like December exists. That is a month you can put games out in. All
Yeah,
right.
or anytime after the first of the year, like 2024 is at this point pretty much a barren wasteland. It's okay. February is not that far away. Like we will be okay.
Liza P, if you're into the Souls genre, I think that is exciting for people. I know the demo got some positive reception, so not my type of game. I'm looking forward to some other stuff, and I'll still be playing Starfield. So good Game Pass month, and shout out to Luke Lore, Xbox Expansion Pass in the chat. Thank you for showing up. What's up, man? Sam, you ready to dive into the main story, the thing everyone wants to talk about?
Let's dig into it, my friend.
All right. So I got to know Starfield, before we get into any of this little tidbits, what are your overall impressions so far?
So I preface every time I talk about Starfield or everything I say about Starfield, I preface with the fact that I am not a traditional Bethesda guy. I've played the first 3 hours of Skyrim at least 7 times. And then when I hit Whiterun, I end and I just never come back. I've toyed around with Oblivion. I've toyed around with Morrowind. I've gotten into Fallout. I finished Fallout 4, but I've never been typically the role playing guy. And Bethesda games have always just been respected, but not something I go for. There's something special about Starfield. There's something about it where I went in and I was like, I know this is a big moment. I'm going to dive in, give it a fair shot. And I don't know if it's my taste changing through the years or what, but this game is not perfect, but it's very, very good. And I mean, when people go into it, if you were expecting something groundbreaking from Bethesda that's unlike anything they've ever done before, this isn't going to be that. But if
Mhm.
you love Bethesda games and you're really into space and you wish their older games had been more polished when they launched, that's Starfield. That's what this is.
Yo, I could not agree more. So I've said for months, weeks now that I was worried about if I would like Starfield. I was worried that it would feel, too big in scale, that I would be overcome with like so much anxiety that I wouldn't know what to do. And I can honestly say that like I did not have those feelings. I fell in love with this game almost instantly, and I've heard some people say that it's like slow to get going and there's like a intro period. I did not feel that at all. Like as soon as you get to New Atlantis, which is like 30 minutes into the game, if that, I was like running around talking to random people, finding stuff, and it's funny because I'm like playing, talking, and voice chat with people who had started the game before me, and I was like, yo, I'm going to work for the bank. I'm going to be a debt collector. And they're like, what are you talking about? I was like, you guys didn't go talk to the bank? And they're like, nah. So I just saying, like, in my 16, 17 hours since then, I can honestly say that like I feel like this game is special because not only of the choices you get from the RPG standpoint, like like the choices, the consequences in the quest line, but just the way you want to play the game. Like I am doing, and I'll ask you, Sam, but I chose a bouncer background. I chose like introvert and the alien DNA, and I'm doing a full melee build. I've had to use a gun one time to get through a quest, but since then I only use knives and daggers and like katanas, and that's how I'm doing the entire game. But everyone is not playing like that. I see a lot of people being like, "Oh, I'm a space pirate." Meanwhile, me, I'm like, I'm a space cop. Like I'm working for the
Yeah.
Vanguard. I'm working for the security. I'm taking down the people bringing in contraband. So just the amount of freedom in this game is so enticing, and I'm like engrossed by everything going on.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that the thing that I love about Starfield is that if you go in trying to do everything all at once, then it can feel overwhelming because there are so many options. Like if you go in and you open up 17 million quest lines, it'll be a little bit difficult to keep up with. But if you go in and you kind of live this life of a character in Starfield where you pick your background and you just go do things that interest you, that's the way that for me Starfield is intended to be played. And so right now, I forget what actual background that I chose. Honestly, I'd have to go back and check, but I'm following what you're doing when you get into the actual quest line. Is that I am kind of like the policeman of the frontier, where I'm going through, I'm helping people, I'm the good guy,
Mm.
and so now you're just going on all these little adventures, and of course there are different perks to each class and things like that. But so far, I'm just going through and just seeing where the game takes me, I guess is the best way to describe it. If I land on a moon, I'll wander around for a little while. Lo and behold, there's this abandoned outpost here. I'll go in, see what's up with that. All of a sudden, I'm getting raided by some pirates that are there scavenging for stuff. Then I'll take back off and I'll pick up the main quest. I'll go see Victor in the Eye, whatever is going on. And I'm just going on these continual quests. But there's also this underlying, and again, no spoilers, big plot that's just unfolding before you that for me is more engaging than what I got with a Skyrim or what I got with a Fallout, because it is something that's futuristic, but it's also a realistic kind of, not that you can identify with it easier, but we are on the cusp of these big technological advancements. And so you feel like you're discovering something that couldn't be that far away. I kind of identified with, I think, the statement that Satya Nadella put out, where his hope is that Starfield inspires the next generation of, adventurers and astrology people that want to go out
Mm.
and figure out what's happening outside of Earth. And that's kind of the way that I'm feeling with Starfield.
What's really great about this is that I feel like I'm actually role playing, because there are times where like I joined the Vanguard right away, I joined the security team right away, but then like the other factions try to recruit me, or there are choices where like you could do certain things and it might make your path a little easier, but I'm like, my guy wouldn't do that. He's a policeman through and through. And it was weird because I haven't had many bugs. I feel this is a pretty polished Bethesda game.
Yeah.
Like I think it looks very nice. It's stable frame rate wise for the most part, unless you're in like the big crowded cities. Then you do get some dips, which is like I can deal with it. It doesn't ruin the experience. But when I'm out. I was out in one city in particular, and I was trying to rescue them from like criminals, and I accidentally hit a civilian, and the security all turned on me, and so I put my knife away, and they wouldn't stop shooting me. I was standing there. I was like, "Can you guys just like let me pay a fine? Like, what's going on?" Like, I didn't kill him. He's fine. He's walking around, and they just wouldn't stop until eventually a security guard runs up to me. He's like, "I like your style in there. You took down those criminals pretty well. We got a spot for you." And then he like offers me a quest, and then immediately says, "You're going to jail, scumbag," and like takes and arrests me. And I was like, "What is happening right now?" So it does still have some of that Bethesda jank, but it's like lovable to the point where I'm like, okay, it's funny. It's a good time.
I think the thing with the Bethesda jank that I've seen, I know that I've seen social media posts of like floating characters, and then the person you're trying to get the quest from is like way above the spaceship and things like that. But to what you're saying, I haven't encountered any bugs beyond like my companion being in my way a little bit, or like kind of like glitching into a box or something like that. But there's nothing that's been like game breaking or that takes me out of
Hmm.
the world to the point that it's a broken game. It is
Yes.
still a Bethesda game, but you can definitely see that there was an additional level of polish put on it. And like you said, it runs well. Like, yeah, it's locked at 30. And I know there have been discussions around that. I don't care. I really don't.
Me either. Me either. Feels great.
Yeah, like I have a PC that could probably run this at higher than 30 FPS, but I'd rather just play it at stability on the Xbox Series X in my living room on the TV and have that understanding that it's going to run as intended on the Xbox Series X. So that's the way that I'm playing it. But yeah, super polished, and overall, I am shocked at how much I personally, for my taste, am enjoying it. And I'm totally going to see it through to the end for the main campaign at the very least, and then I will continue the side quest. But like you said, I love being the good guy, and I like role playing in this game more than I have in other games. Like
Hmm.
anytime I'm making choices and I'm trying to do the right thing, and I see that Sam Coe liked that, I'm like, yes, Sam
Oh,
likes me.
okay.
Like,
So this is something I wanted to get into because Luke brings it up. He says my experiences are so different. 20 hours in, I've never even heard of the Eye, which is wild to me because I go to the Eye all the time, constantly up there to like get like, oh, tell me where this thing is that I have to go find.
yeah,
Which is like it was part of the main quest. Now it's kind of off to the side. Like I'm 7 main quests away from rolling credits on the main quest. So like I'm
mm,
not that far away. And that's with me doing a lot of side content. Like I have wrapped the UC Vanguard's main side quest chain line. I'm about to wrap my favorite companion's main quest line, who I'm going to ask you in a second because you're over there talking about Sam liking your stuff. I hate that dude. He is
why?
so him and Barrett, I cannot stand.
Do not bring Barrett and Sam in the same sentence. These are very different people.
He's so annoying to be honest. Okay, this is where I want to talk. All right, most of the members of Constellation I do not like. They are very annoying to me, especially Sarah. She is, shut up. You sound like the Karen of space.
I don't. These people don't bother me. Like I've seen everybody hating on Sarah. She does not bother me. That I can't really think of anybody. The one that does kind of irritate me is Mateo because he's so like
Okay.
philosophical and weird. And I'm like, dude, what are you on right now? Like, were you smoking something up in the eye? What's going on? Because you're just all over the place. I don't know what's happening with him.
So who's like your go-to companion? Because mine is an Andreja, who I'm about to finish her main quest that, or I believe, and romance her because she's one of the 4 options you can do. So I absolutely love her. Like she is the best character in this game by
Yeah.
far for me.
So I unlocked her. I guess I like got to the point where I meet her. I think 2 days ago, and I've had her as a companion a good bit. But Samco has been kind of like my ride or die, just because he's effective in the way that I play for the most part. And I haven't looked at their skills throughout, so I don't know if I'm optimizing well. Typically, I just run and gun. Also, I went in expecting to be like a stealth thief kind of guy.
Hmm.
Nah, not doing any of that. I'm ballistics all the way. I'm jetpacking around. Don't even worry. Yeah, so
I don't
none of
even have a
those.
jetpack. Like I have it, but I
Just
haven't
started
unlocked the
using it.
skill.
I
Okay.
literally just started using it yesterday. Um, but yeah, so Sam Coe is my main guy just because like I like his vibe. I like his backstory of like his family kind of was like in this town, and he's kind of like the not necessarily vagrant of the bunch, but he's the adventurer of this rich family that's kind of run this town. So I'm a big fan of Sam myself.
Okay. All
Cool
right. All
name
right.
too. Good
Yeah. Yeah.
name.
Yeah. 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 I've
Yeah.
heard. I've heard. Yeah. Yeah. It's just it's funny because you learn more about some of them throughout the main story, but I feel like you can't really get to know them unless you choose them to be your companion and bring them out with you. Because the more time you spend with them, there's like a hidden affinity system. Like you want to bring characters out. The more time you take them on missions, the more they'll suddenly just be like, "Can we chat?" And then you'll learn more about their backstory and eventually unlock their quest, which gives you a whole new world of stuff. But yeah, man, I cannot get over the depth of this game. I'm sitting there, I'm like looking up where can I get the best melee weapon, right? Because I've been struggling to find some good melee weapons,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, you have to go to like a House of a Rune vendor, and I was like, I don't even know where that is. Like,
Right. Yeah.
how do I get there? So I finally found some of zealots, which are like enemies, and I was like, I'm gonna kill all of you, and you better have a weapon that I want on it. Which they had a better one, not the one I wanted, but it's just that thing where it's like I'm trying to build who I want. I
Yeah.
want to be a tank. I want to be a stealth warrior, but it's like slow going. I'm level 20 now, so I don't know where you are.
I think I'm a level 17 going on 18. So
Okay.
similar range. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's table that for a second and then talk about some news for Starfield because despite being on Game Pass, Starfield is selling well. Data from Play Tracker estimates that over 1 million players on Steam purchased the premium edition and 1 million players on Xbox purchased the premium edition to play early. Phil Spencer did confirm that it exceeded 1 million concurrent players yesterday, and Bethesda announced just before we went live that Starfield has reached 6 million players.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that's not sharing, but it is what it is. Weird. Okay. It was supposed to come up on the screen for the video. I clicked share screen, didn't come up.
Oh,
Uh
the anticlimactic moment.
Anticlimactic. Yeah. Okay. 6 million players though, Sam. So how are we feeling?
I mean, 6 million players is that's a lot of people. I want to compare it to other big games, but I don't have those numbers in front of me. But all things considered, it is the biggest Bethesda game launch of all time. So you're
Mhm.
comparing that to Skyrim, to Fallout 4, to Fallout 76, even like thinking about the recent releases that they've had 10 different versions of Skyrim. I kid. But 6 million players diving in, considering that's including Game Pass, considering that's including the premium edition people across the board. We're talking about a game that hasn't been out for an entire week yet. Like, let that sink in. 6
Officially one
million
day.
Yeah, yeah, literally. It's been officially out for one day, and 6 million people have already played it. That's some incredible stuff, no matter how you cut it. And that's new for Xbox in recent years. I mean, of course, you've got Halo and things like that that are free to play, etc. The free to play games that have come out. But when we're talking about big first party AAA releases, these are awesome numbers to see for Xbox as they're trying to figure out how they hit that cadence of really good high quality releases multiple times throughout the year. This is the first example of that we've had really since, I guess, Hi-Fi Rush. And would you even put those games on the same level? I mean, just two different kind of things.
Yeah, as much as I loved Hi-Fi Rush, I do think Hi-Fi Rush is a phenomenal game. I don't think it holds a candle to the experience I'm having with Starfield. I know you can look at review scores and be like, oh well, Hi-Fi Rush is I think an 89 and Starfield's an 88, right, or whatever. But at the end of the day, like the experience I'm having, the zeitgeist moment that Starfield is creating is so much larger than an Xbox game has been in years and years. I can't remember the last time where like I go on my X timeline and it's just Starfield talk, which is like this is what happened with God of War Ragnarok. This is what happened with Tears of the Kingdom. Like you log in, you see everyone posting clips talking about like what they're doing. I see people like, oh, I put 200,000 potatoes in my in my ship
Yeah.
for some reason. It's really a big cultural gaming moment.
Yeah, yeah. I think that the way that I always gauge how big a game launch is outside of my little sphere is if it hits regular TikTok, then I know that it's a significant thing. And so if I see people talking about like, is anybody else's boyfriend just gone this weekend playing Starfield, like stuff like that, where all these guys are just on the couch or significant others, whatever, and they're just going through and they're like, this is the best thing ever. Like these kind of things where it's bleeding over into just everyday life. I think that's whenever I say, okay, this is a really, really big deal. Like Spider-Man 2 is inevitably going to have that moment
Hmm.
where it is such a big IP and Spider-Man's so significant that it will have that same kind of appeal. But it's been so long since Xbox has been that thing where I'm sure if I went to work and I was like, yo, what you guys doing this weekend? There's going to be somebody else out there that's playing Starfield in my little group. And that's
Hmm.
unusual for like a non gaming community. So I think that it's a big, big moment for not only Xbox, but for Bethesda and for the gaming group and culture as a whole. It's a pop culture thing now.
Yeah, well, it being a big gaming moment, I want to bring in a White Sea Deer here in the chat says, "What a year! With how amazing of a game this is, I don't think it'll come close to winning Game of the Year. It'll be nominated at least." Which transitions me well into it's Kyle's Discord question, where he says, do you think Starfield will be in the Game of the Year conversation?" That's his first question. He has another one we'll come back to. But how are we feeling right now, Sam?
I think it'll be in the game of the year conversation. And again, I think we had some conversations like this on some discords, but it depends on what game of the year conversation you're talking about. There are a lot that are voted on by critics, and I think that critics overall that I've been listening to have been positively receiving Starfield, and so I think that considering it is a Bethesda game, it is going to be top of mind. Can it win? I mean, if this game had come out last year in the state that it's in this year, would have swept because there was nothing that came out last year from basically anyone of any kind of significance on this level. But this year, we've got going all the way back to the beginning of the year, so many incredible games that have come out. And of course, the inevitable comparison of Baldur's Gate 3. It's like right there as far as RPGs go. Starfield is great. It's going to have a tough time competing, but it's
Hmm.
definitely going to be in and will win some game of the year conversations.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll win some game of the year conversations. If we're talking about the Keeleys, I don't. I'm sure it'll be nominated. I don't think it will win just because of like who votes on that and knowing the panels. While it was mostly positive, I think there's been bigger games for critics this year, and they're going to be the ones voting on that conversation. But that doesn't mean that it can't be your game of the year. It doesn't mean it won't be Save the Game Media's game of the year when we do our game of the year discussion. Like it has the chance of being lots of people's game of the year because I do think it is a very special game that I'm constantly thinking about. I can't remember the last time I'm like sitting at work and like, I have to find a way to this planet later. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't even know what galaxy this is in. Like,
Yeah, I had the same exact experience because like I'm very into gaming. Obviously, I'm on this podcast. I have my own content that I do, and I consider myself to be a really big fan of video games as a whole.
mhm,
But whenever I do log off, it's very rare that I think actively about a quest line or I think about the game that I'm playing when I'm at work or when I'm in another section of my life that's kind of segmented off from my gaming habits. But this time around, it is one of those things where, and as example, I wake up very early in the morning. Very rarely do I play games before work at this point, just because I'm usually busy. I made time to log into Starfield. Like I made some time to play this game. That's where I'm at, where I am making time. I'm staying up late. Let me tell you, dude, I don't stay up late. Your boy gets
mhm.
bed. We're early to bed, early to rise. But no, we've been staying up till 11, 12 o'clock grinding through these campaign missions because it's just so good. I can't stop thinking about it. It's got me. That's it.
I know this game is good because I'll be like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. I'm gonna get a few hours into Starfield, and then next time I hit like the Xbox button, I'm like, it's 8:30. Like,
Yeah.
what happened? I feel like I've been sitting here for 20 minutes. Like, where did the 3.5 hours go? Because you just get so engrossed in it. But Spam in the chat says, I honestly think the competition might be a little too fierce this year. Re-Game Awards, just to name some: Tears of the Kingdom, Diablo 4, Final Fantasy, RE4, Spider-Man, Armored Core, Jedi Survivor. I get your point, and that's why I said I don't think it'll win the Keeleys. I don't think some of those are Armored Core. I don't think has a chance of being nominated for. I know it reviewed well, but I feel like nobody really cared about it after like launch day. It definitely hasn't been like the huge success that like Elden Ring was, obviously. RE4 up for discussion if that should be nominated to remake. I think it's fine. Diablo 4, I think launched well. I think it has seen some issues. So whether that gets nominated will be up for discussion or not because of the post-launch content. But I get your point.
Yeah, I think every one of those games will get a Game of the Year edition. Like they're all so good that, and they are all going to get somebody's Game of the Year. It without a doubt. Like Armored Core is going to get Game of the Year awards. It will get that. Mortal Kombat's going to get them. Spider-Man 2 is going to get them. Things like that. But to the point, it is going to be a really difficult year to figure out what somebody's Game of the Year is if it is an outlet that's just generalized. Where hey, all these games came out. What is your Game of the Year? Like I said, comparing to 2022, I mean, I'm really hyped for Lords of the Fallen here in a couple of weeks. It's coming out. Like that's a game that I'm really looking forward to. If it had come out last year, potentially a Game of the Year contender, like that's a very big deal. This year, I don't even know if anybody's going to buy it because, like, who's going to play Lords of the Fallen when all of these other games are coming out? It's just going to get overlooked, which is why games like Alone in the Dark are getting moved out to, I think, December or January, one of the two. It got
I
delayed.
think it's January, end of January in
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah. So, like,
Which,
they just got kicked out.
can I say, amazing tweet where they were like, we know y'all got things to play. Like we're gonna give our game a better shot is basically
Yeah.
what they said. And
Because it would get cannibalized.
I wish more games had the guts to do that. I'm looking at you, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, which apparently has been delayed to November 14th. And I was like, that doesn't help. That's still in the middle of a bunch of big releases because November is still packed just like October. Not as high, like not Mario and Spider-Man, but it still has some big releases. I'm like, December, January, like they're open, go for it.
Yeah, the awareness I think for those mid-range games is really important. I mean, even looking at a game like Alan Wake 2, it's big enough to stand on its own, but it's still going to get impacted by all of these games coming out to where, like we said on the Patreon episode last week, if you have a 3-game tier or a 3-game maximum that you can purchase this year, like if you have $210 to spend on video games in 2023 or fall 2023, Alone in the Dark, or I'm sorry, Alan Wake 2 might not be one of the games you pick just because you've got so many big games that aren't coming out that you need to buy or that you want to buy. It makes sense for it to get kicked out. Now, I get they're capitalizing on Halloween and things like that, but Alone in the Dark, no one was going to buy that in comparison to like all these other games. Again, full respect to the game. It looks solid. It's got a lot of big names in it, but it will be one that I probably check out in January because I'm hyped for it. Like I want to play it, just not right now. There's too much.
Yeah. Just like that budget thing we did was funny because I pre-ordered Sonic Superstars earlier this week and I was like, that's 3 days before Mario. And then I have Alan Wake like a few days later. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is I would have blown my whole budget in the space of 10 days if that was a real thing.
Yep,
1 month.
That's how it's going to be, man. I am holding back and not giving into the hype on a lot of these games just because I know they're still going to be good, if not better, when I get around to them. Like patches are going to come, it's going to be okay, and I'll get Alan Wake 2 a couple of weeks after launch when it's on sale for like $40 or what. Like it's going to be okay. You don't have to get everything right when it comes out.
I have no self-control. Let's jump into some questions. I asked for people's comments, concerns, questions about Starfield. I almost said Skyrim. Starfield on our Twitter and in our Discord. We got a few questions. Firstly, Brianna's coming in. She wants to know: is the soundtrack better than Skyrim? What's the best track in the soundtrack so far?
Ooh, I don't know any of the tracks by heart in the soundtracks yet, just with Starfield being so new. But comparing it to Skyrim, it's almost like comparing two different genres. Like the Skyrim soundtrack is something that, I mean, when you've got 8-hour long YouTube videos of like Skyrim ambiance to study to, and that's something that I listen to on a regular basis, it's good. So like I'm still thinking Skyrim at this point is better than Starfield, but it's a slightly different vibe. That's not to say that it's not great. And also there is that London Symphonic Orchestra presentation coming up where they're doing the soundtrack live. And I'm very excited about that.
I like soundtracks. I know when a soundtrack vibes with me. Like I think Final Fantasy 16 had a good soundtrack. I think A Plague Tale Requiem has a absolutely stunning soundtrack. I think Starfield soundtrack is good, but if you ask me to name any song, I can't name a single song from any game I've ever played because that's not true. I can name Fire Emblem Three Houses, but that's just because it's in Smash and I always choose it for my arena. But it's not going to happen. Do I think the soundtrack is better than Skyrim? Probably not, because like when I'm thinking about Skyrim, I just hear it in my brain. When I'm thinking about Starfield, I'm not like hearing the soundtrack right now. So
Yeah.
I think it's good. I think I think I like Starfield better than Skyrim, and I loved Skyrim, but that's from like a gameplay and world perspective. And I just love space. Like Starfield gives me very Mass Effect vibes. Like if it was early Mass Effect, like before we discovered all the weird aliens. That's kind of how I'm feeling about this game.
The best Bethesda soundtrack by far, though, Doom 2016. As a metal fan, Doom 2016. That is some recognition. Rip and Tear. Come on, that's a good soundtrack right there. That's got some good beats to it.
I do know Persona soundtracks. That's right. I'm going to say, Sam, I've never played Doom 2016.
Dude,
I've played
that
Doom. I've played Doom Eternal.
Doom Eternal's good. It builds on like the
Really?
gameplay of 2016. I feel like if you want a modern version of classic Doom, 2016 is the one to go to. Less platforming, I think, is the way to go, and that does that.
I
So,
like platforming. That's probably why I like.
oh, then you like
I went.
you like
Yeah,
Eternal.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for the question, Bree. Alpaca Tom comes in and says, "What's your dream spaceship, and will you build it in Starfield?"
Ooh, that's a good question. So I was looking through the spaceship builder. Admittedly, I'm horrible with building in
Same.
general in games. Like I was poking around. I modified the main ship a little bit, but not to the point that it's like very different. Like I put some new engines on it to make it go slightly faster, things like that. I want to figure out if I can build an X-wing of any size from Star Wars. I would love to build like an X-wing fighter kind of thing. Doubt it's possible. So the next thing that I might build would be maybe one of the Star Wars ships. I don't know what it's called, but it looks like an upside down Y. I was a really big fan of that one in Star Wars Battlefront 2 on the PS2. So I'm thinking that there's also that sick Millennium Falcon build that I've seen floating around on Twitter. I'm a big fan of that. So maybe that one day. I think
So
you might be muted on it.
I was muted. So I bought a new ship actually.
Nice.
I have one. I bought the Galileo, which people can Google. It's a huge ship. It doesn't even fit on my screen. I was like sending pictures to my brother. I was like, it's so big. Like when I stand in front of it, because I play in third person, I was like, you can't see it. But it has like three prongs. So it's like two sides and then a middle, and then the weapons are in the center. It's huge. Like you stand you
Ooh.
when you walk around in it, it has multiple ladders, multiple floors, multiple wings. It's I love it. The ship is gorgeous. Like it's exactly what I would want. I'm not really into like, oh, I'm gonna build my own ship and make like a design. I kind of like the pre-built ones, and then I just color them the way I want personally.
Yeah. So I see the value here on this screenshot that I found listed at 132,000
Yep.
credits. You spent that money?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify that for the audience out there. You spent a ton of money on that thing.
Well, listen, I looked at it, and there were only two ships. There actually no, there have been three ships that I've wanted. One was the Galileo, which cost 132,000 credits. There was another one called was it Shipbreaker or something? That's like 260,000 credits, and that one looks sweet as well. And then there was one ship that I can't remember the name of. It was at an outpost. I randomly was like, I dropped into a city, 400,000 credits.
That's
And
wild.
that thing was a monster. Like, oh my Lord. I was like, if I had the money, but I don't know when I'm ever going to have that much money. So I was like, I'm going to go with the reasonably priced 120.
Yeah, I might buy one eventually. I was just kind of poking around to see what the shipbuilder was like. I think the next thing on my list is to figure out how outposts work and like to connect them together and start harvesting resources. But I'm not at the point where I care about resources.
Hmm.
So, like, do I need an outpost? I don't know.
I will say the Galileo has a very small cargo hold. It's only 200, so I have
Mm.
to be pretty picky. I did set up one outpost just for the achievement, and I recruited one of the characters you meet at the beginning of the game. You get to recruit.
Oh, the woman? I forget what her
No,
name
no,
is.
no,
Oh,
not the woman. Um, one of the guys, and I just stuck him at the outpost, and I've never gone and seen him. It's been like 10 hours, and I'm
that's
like,
hilarious. Yeah,
yeah,
I recruited two people that were also at the beginning of the game, and I'm kind of like keeping them in my repertoire of like, once I build an outpost, you've got a lot of outpost skills, and I'm going to leave you there and never come back. I'm going to be like an Amazon warehouse manager where I'm just putting you out there to work and I'll see you in 6 months and it'll be okay.
So are you doing a lot of space like combat exploration? Because for me, I'm really only going into space to like fast travel, get to a new location, and occasionally like when I have to do the space combat, I'll do the space combat. It's not like I don't go looking for it.
Yeah, I don't really go looking for it yet, just because I am kind of on that mission of getting to the end of the main campaign. And then I know that there's been that talk of like once New Game Plus kicks in, then you get kind of like a fuller experience of what Starfield really is. And so I'm kind of trying to get to the main end of the campaign. So no, I haven't done too much just like cruising around exploring, but I have had those instances you're talking about where somebody will pop up and give you a side quest of some kind or start a conversation with you.
Yeah. Space White Cedar. Space combat is cool, but I like boarding ships more. Loot's not worth blowing up. I have not boarded any enemy ships.
I would love to learn how, because by the time I get to them, I've already blown them up. So like how do I is it like Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag where I lower it down to a specific health and they're like,
I
all right,
I
you win."
believe so. You'll see little indicators like after doing a certain amount of
Okay.
damage, it'll say like, "Oh, the grav drive disabled, the shields are disabled, the end once the engines are disabled, I think they just float there and then you can like go get them,
Yes.
I think."
There is a way to target specific parts of a ship, I think, that you're
Yeah,
shooting
I've
at.
no idea about it. I just
I
blast.
haven't either. Yeah, I know that I heard Joe talking on this week's episode of XEP about how the VAT system is effectively in the ship combat.
Mm,
And I have yet to figure out how that works. I'm just kind of like pulling both triggers, and I have two different types of lasers slash cannons, and like the health bar goes down, and I'm good.
yep. Wait, see deer says it's in the skill tree. You can unlock it, which I have. My skill tree is like almost all of the physical stuff, like more health,
Mm.
more like take more damage, all that kind of stuff.
See,
I
mine's in the combat, and then I've got one jetpack over to the right, and
No,
that's all I've
no,
got.
not me, not me. Yeah. So space combat is all right. It's getting better. I will say I didn't like it at first, but now that I'm kind of getting the hang of it, it does get better.
It does feel realistic. Not that I've ever flown a spaceship, but like it
it
feels, you know what I
feels
mean? Yeah, like, it
yeah, of
feels like it
course.
would be this difficult to turn a big ship like that. I feel like this is what it's like.
My ship is so slow. Like the engine only has three
Oh,
lines, and I usually just keep one of them full, and then
mhm.
max out the weapons and the shield. So my ship, I'm like, like barely like struggling to move. I'm like moving the Titanic in space
You're over
almost.
here turning an 18 wheeler, just doing a 3-point turn, trying to line up the shots.
It
Yeah.
is like sometimes ships will be so fast they're like doing laps around me, and I'm like, I get you. I'm coming for you. Uh, Ellery writes in says, "What has been your favorite thing about Starfield so far? As someone who gets bored easy, having so many different things to do would be mine at a macro level. On a micro level, landing randomly on planets and clearing out the enemy bases and looting everyone and everything. By selling what I looted, I found this is the fastest way to earn credits."
I think that for me so far, the best thing about Starfield, or the thing that I enjoy the most about Starfield, is just the genuine sense of exploration that not many games capture. Where, and I know this is probably going to be a hot take, but I know that the map is something a lot of people have complained about, or the lack of direction on where to go specifically. Like if you're in a city, there isn't really a map, and you're intended to look at the writing on the wall, the signage, and kind of wander around the city and find your way as you would if you were landing in New Atlantis for the first time. Um, and I think that for a lot of people, that can be a turnoff. For me, that sense of like, this is a new place. I'm going to go see what neon is like. I'm going to wander around in these stores, figure out what's over here. Go to this random planet that I found, scan it. Oh, it's got aluminum or whatever I might need. Go find it, harvest it. Just this sense of like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm a dude in this world and I'm just out here living my life, finding new things to do. And I think that a lot of games have a faux sense of exploration. Like Diablo is a guided exploration, for example, whereas Starfield is literally just like Todd Howard picking you up like a me on the me channel and just, you're dangling there. It just drops you into this world of Starfield. And I really like that.
Yeah, I would say my favorite thing is honestly the choice and consequence. It's been a long time where I feel like my choices actually matter. Like there's no spoilers. There is one campaign mission where you make a choice, uh, and it drastically changes things. It is awesome. I don't know if how it plays out going forward because I've only done the mission after that. But gotta tell you, like I did not see it coming. I was so happy I went with the choice that I did. But yeah, the choice and consequence for me is the most important thing and my favorite thing about it. I've heard a lot of people talk about the feeling lost in Starfield. And like, oh, I don't know where to go. And Ghostly March brings it up in the chat, but I don't know if people know this, so I'm gonna throw out this little tip. If you go to your quest log and just hit A, it will track the quest and give you a blue marker no matter what quest you're doing. If you open your scanner, then you can get little footprints that will lead you to that location. So there's no reason to. I've heard some other podcasters say like I couldn't figure out where to go, or like even for like simple things like the Ryujin job interview. Like I got lost. I'm like, bro, it's a straight and a left. What are you talking about? You just walk. You have a tracker. Just go.
Yeah. I
So
think that on top of that, too, there were a couple of instances where I was on a pirate's spaceship and I was trying to leave to go to my ship, but I realized that the side quest that I had started with the pirate had to be completed before the door would open and let me go back to my ship. So if you can't find a way out or that little guideline isn't popping up, make sure you finish the quest that is applicable to the area you're in, and then you should be able to progress forward. But I haven't had too many issues like some other people have been saying.
yeah, no. Okay, let's keep it rolling. Sam Heaney, who's in the chat, writes in, I feel the best way to describe Starfield is it is the next step in a Bethesda RPG. It's not revolutionary. In fact, it's a deeply flawed game on many levels, but the Bethesda magic is still there in spades. It's more like, quote, one small step in BGS becoming more than an Elder Scrolls Fallout Factory. Do you expect that the overhype of the game will damage its legacy over time?
I don't think so. I think that right now, it seemed like for me, at least in my timeline and the groups that I run in, there was a period of like realization shortly after the early access launched of like, okay, it is by and large Skyrim in space with more polish on it. Like that's what it is. And I think that now that people are getting into it, especially the mainstream people that might not be in these conversations like we're having, they see new Bethesda game, they dive in. Lo and behold, it is indeed a Bethesda game. I think, if anything, the fact that it's the most polished to date and it's one of the more robust storylines that I've played personally, like I said, not a ton of experience, but I think it is something new. And I think that it shows an iteration, it shows an evolution of what Bethesda can do. And if anything, the quality in the game visually makes me more excited
Hmm.
for Elder Scrolls 6 too. Like I know that's a far ways out, but I mean, in 5 years, if Starfield looks this good in 2023, when Elder Scrolls eventually launches for potentially even next gen consoles, it's going to be looking wow, like that's going to be great, you know?
Yeah, I was disappointed when they said that it wouldn't have a performance 60 FPS mode, but then actually playing it, the 4K works. This is the best models in a Bethesda game by far. Like we don't have those dead eyes anymore. Like everyone I talk to, I feel like, oh, this looks really good. Like this is a very good looking game. And I've played it on my ROG Ally as well, which not as good looking as the Series X, all right? Because I'm playing a 720p with FSR, and then it's hitting like 40-ish frames. So I'm getting better frame rate, but all the shade, everything takes a hit, all right? Because you're playing on low settings on that thing. But it is one of those games where I feel like it is an evolution for Bethesda, and it's not revolutionary, all right? It is an open world game. I think that it is Bethesda refining their craft to the ultimate degree almost, because you look at things like Skyrim, where I like Skyrim. I think the story is decent, but it's not as good as Starfield story. Like you can beat the Skyrim story in a few hours. It's not nearly as depth. It's not as complex. The side quests, the faction stuff in Skyrim is what really gives that game life. But I feel like here they've made everything feel important. The main quest feels rewarding. The side quests feel so rewarding. Like the ones I've done, I'm like, this is amazing. And it's not just, oh, this is a random side character. Like what I do here doesn't really matter. I felt the choice and impact everywhere in this game. So for me, yes, it's a Bethesda RPG. Yes, that's what I expected for the most part, but I feel like they absolutely nailed what that means.
Yeah. Also, on the topic of performance, not to get too far into it, but you mentioned the performance on the ROG Ally. But like I said, I started playing on the Xbox Series S because I was at the beach and I was like, I'll wait till I get home. That was a lie. So I dove in on the Xbox Series S, and I am baffled at how well the game runs on the Xbox
Hmm.
Series S, how well it looks on the Xbox Series S. Like, you can really tell. And Todd Howard said this in interviews, being able to focus on one platform has really improved the quality of the game they're able to deliver because they can really harness the power of the hardware that they've got. And yeah, it's locked at 30, but like, visually, it's very, very impressive. And I just want to give a kudos to that. The fact that it runs well on the X, it runs well on the S, it has all the bells and whistles on PC, it runs on these handheld devices. I mean, that coming out of Bethesda, a studio that's notorious for like having a lot of bugs and issues in their games at launch for the most part, it's really well done. So kudos to that.
I will say it doesn't currently run very well on Steam Deck, but it's also not verified for Steam Deck yet. So
Mm,
if you're out there listening, you're like, I want to play this on my Steam Deck, I would hold off on that. Maybe just do some cloud streaming with that if you have that device and you're looking to play handheld. But yeah, I know AMD, they dropped literally like the day before early access. They were like, here's your Starfield specific drivers, and I was like, this is wild. Like, it wasn't even an
yeah.
update. I had to go in and install stuff. So
I think Nvidia had
um
one too drop for Starfield. They do one every quarter or so of
yeah.
like new stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So to answer your question, I don't think the overhype will damage its legacy. If anything, I think because it has come out in such a good state, like if they update it, if they fix things that people have issues with, like the map, which I don't personally like, I never open my map, I never care about my map. But if they make those quality of life features, I think it can only get better, if anything,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that if it's only up from here, and even then, if this is where we stay, like, I've seen people talking about the inventory system. Is it perfect? No. Is it all right? Yeah. Like, that's kind of where I'm at, where it's good. Could be even better, but it's good right now for me.
I must not be doing something wrong because I always have space in my inventory, both on me, on my ship. And I'm like, I think everyone's picking up stuff, but also like, you know how your ship has all like those plates and cups and all this random,
Yeah.
like, I sold all that. My ship is barren. So I'm like, I gotta maximize my space on here.
Yeah, I think I'm also one of the people that I'm going through and I'm not picking up everything like a normal Bethesda game where, like, if I see a manila folder laying on a desk in an office, you can keep that. I'm
Hmm.
good. Like, I don't
Hmm.
need that. And so I'm just picking up weapons, spacesuits, helmets, backs, things like that.
Same.
And then if I run out of space, then Vasco just gets overloaded with that, or Sam or whoever I'm with, just like,
Mules.
yeah, pack mule, get over here. Yeah, so that's kind of how I'm playing it. But yeah, I think it's good. I think it's really, really good.
Sam had a second question. He said, "Do you feel that this is quote restart for X? Sorry, do you feel that this restart for Xbox puts additional pressure on upcoming titles in terms of fan expectations? I.e., what if Avowed is quite narrow in comparison? Will Xbox fans be disappointed?"
I think that there is going to be inherently a higher level of expectation for Xbox in general, just because you have had a win now coming off of the loss with Redfall. And I think that Forza Motorsport's going to land in a couple of weeks, going to be a really high quality, polished Forza game. And then going into next year, we've got Hellblade 2, we've got Avowed. And I think that the games need to be polished, and I think if they hit that Starfield level of polish or beyond, then they're going to be in good standings. I don't think the scope of a game necessarily is going to be reflective of what people think about it. Like, I would hope, personally, that Avowed is probably a little bit narrower than Starfield,
Hmm.
because Starfield is this universe explorer situation, whereas Avowed, I would hope it to be honestly even narrower than Skyrim. Like, I kind of want a directed or Obsidian kind of experience, and that's what I want from it. And so, hopefully, ideally, if there are, let's say, 3 or 4 big Xbox games to land every year, not each of them may be for me, but I would hope that if there is a narrower, more focused Obsidian style RPG, that might be perfect for somebody else, or a second game for me, or whatever. There's going to be something for everybody, and that's what I hope we get out of it.
Yeah, Obsidian's already said that Avowed is narrower than Skyrim. Like, it's not their Skyrim. It's going to be an Obsidian RPG, fantasy Outer Worlds. If you look at the scope of that, I would probably expect something like that. So it's not going to be the level of Starfield, and that is good. We don't want every game to be a massive open world, crazy experience. You just want every game to be polished. Let them make the games that they want to make, the worlds they want to build, whether it's a linear experience, something a la Hellblade 2 probably will be. Honestly, if they came out and was like, it's open zone or whatever, I'd be like, okay, that's an interesting choice, but you haven't told us anything. All we see is little cutscenes so far. I expect a linear game, but if they want to make that, as long as it's polished and a good experience, that's fine. Not every game needs to be open world, because I think that you run into the Ubisoft problem where every game starts to feel the same. You have a formula, and that's not what Xbox wants. We want diversity in our games.
Yeah, I think that Xbox is becoming an RPG company just based on the acquisitions they're making outside of Activision Blizzard, but they are right now RPG heavy, with Bethesda
Hmm.
being a big part of the stuff they're putting out. But I do hope that it's a diverse box where everybody can get something they want to play in a game that fits their desires. And I think that more and more we're starting to see that, where it is the Gears box, the third person shooter box, it is the Halo first person shooter box, it is the Call of Duty machine in a couple of months, it is going to be your racing machine, it's your RPG home, it's your FIFA home. Like, it is going to be everything for everybody. And I think that's where I want it to go.
Hmm. I fully agree. Last question for the show, Sam, and this one might get a little spicy. Okay, so it's Kyle. We almost got through. Okay, but he wants to know: do you think that Starfield was scored and criticized unfairly by some outlets for not being something that they never said it was going to be, rather than what it is, which is a very well made and fun Western RPG?
I think that reviews by nature are just opinions of the person reviewing them. And so, you look at IGN America, you look at GameSpot, they both gave it a 7. And by many stretches of the imagination, this could be a 7, like depending on what your personal interest is. If you give somebody a controller that goes into the game expecting something, and then it comes out to not be what they expected, or they go in wanting something and it doesn't pan out to be what they wanted, then they might score it a 7. And whether we like it or not, it's a valid opinion on the game. And if that's what the site wants to publish and that's what they want their public review to be, then by all means, that they have the freedom to do that. So I don't really think that any review is inherently bad by any stretch for me personally. Um, I do think that I would rather listen to streamers that I identify with. I think that I would rather listen to podcasts, have conversations with friends, ping a friend in the Discord, be like, yo, I see you're playing Starfield. Is it good? Is it not? I
Hmm.
know we share the same interest. Because somebody who is a FIFA content creator playing Starfield for the hype, probably not going to like it. But if you are somebody who is into RPGs, if you really love the Outer Worlds, then I'm going to say you're probably more of a Bethesda guy. Might want to see what you have to say and put more weight behind it. I think that's how I approach it.
I think this question obviously comes to be from the discourse that we've seen online, where Xbox console fanboys, I'm just going to call it like it is, have believe there's a vendetta against the Xbox brand, right? They believe that Dan Stapleton over at IGN, PC Gamer, and I think it was GameSpot, who all gave them in the 7s range versus the 8s and 9s and above that most other outlets were giving, had some sort of bias against Xbox. And no matter what the game was or what their experience was, that the game was never going to be reviewed fairly for them. And I think that viewpoint is inherently dumb. I think you're coming from a place of bad faith right off the start. Like, that isn't how reviews work. They point to things like Dan Stapleton, who gave Prey, the original, a 4. But then you go look at his review, the actual words he wrote, he had game breaking bugs throughout his playthrough. So if you have an experience where you cannot finish the game, yeah, that might be a 4 for you. If he didn't click with Starfield as much as others are, it might be a 7. A 7 is a good score. He recommends it. He gave it a good score. Do I think it's a 7? No. For me, this is probably like a 9 up there, like in that range. We don't do scores here when we get review codes. We do a recommend, don't recommend, wait for sale type system, because what I find is that I think the conversation, what I'm saying, should matter more than some number. And I know that outlets like our friends over at Season Gaming, who I've heard Ains talk about this. He's like, the number is there for SEO purposes. Like that's how you get in the aggregators. That's how you drive traffic to your site, right? Like you need the scores. So I don't think that the scores ultimately matter in any way. Like it's sitting at an 88. Are people really going to be upset that it's not 2 points off a 90? Like, who does that matter to? I don't understand why so many people put so much into review scores, because I look at things like God of War Ragnarok, which is sitting at like a 95. And for me, that's a 7. I do not think that's up in the 9s and 10s range, but for other people, they do. So who am I to disagree? Who am I to tell them they're wrong? Just find reviewers you agree with, or have the same taste, I should say, as you. So like, okay, if they didn't like it, I probably won't like it.
Yeah. And I mean, again, not to be a Game Pass shill or anything, but with Game Pass, this is a non issue for a lot of people at this point because form
Yeah,
your own opinion,
just play it.
dive into it, play it. I think that's the beauty of Game Pass, where Solar Ash coming out in a couple of weeks. We talked about that. I don't even have to look at reviews for that if I don't want to. I can just check it out, download it, play it through the cloud real quick, just to see if you vibe with it. And I think that more and more, I've talked about this in a couple of different ways over the weeks, but like I'm getting really tired of social media being negative and
Mm-hmm.
reactionary all of the time, and just like everybody has an opinion and everybody's entitled to one, but I might not want to hear them. So I'm just going to form my own, and I'm just going to go play the games and have a good time and be in the conversations I want to be in. But it can just get so consuming that it's better for everybody, for your enjoyment of a game, for your mental health, to just go enjoy it for yourself and see if you like it. And if not, look at all these other games we've got coming out. Like there's so many different games. You are good. You are
Mm-hmm.
fine.
I could not agree more. Sam, that's going to do it for us. Any closing comments about Starfield you want to make that we haven't talked about?
I want to go play it right now, and that's
Me too.
probably what I'm going to do.
Me too. Andrea's waiting for me. She needs me, but
It's time
uh,
to romance.
I will take no more questions about Andrea. Anyway, Sam, where can people find you and your lovely content?
You can find me everywhere at JamPackSam, Threads, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. I'm all over the place posting stuff throughout the week. Been a lot of Starfield content this week, so talking about reviews and impressions and things like that. It's been a fun time. You can find me everywhere, JamPackSam.
Awesome. And you find me at the Muffin Mon on X or Twitter, whatever you prefer. That's a 1-7I and own 7A. Follow us at Save the Game or Save Game Media, sorry, on Twitter. You can still enter our Spider-Man 2 giveaway that'll be running for about another month or so. If you review our PlayStation show, No Limits, let me know and I'll get you entered for that. Until next time, have fun playing Starfield.